Good morning, students. I'm Dr. Kiran Deshwal, Assistant Professor English. In this video lecture, I will teach you the sonnet Death Be Not Proud, composed by John Donne. It is also known as Holly Sonnets. And in this sonnet, John Donne describes about the feeling of death. How do we feel when we know that we are about to die? Before starting the poem, let us have a brief introduction of this poem. This is sonnet number 10 and it is also known by its opening words at Death Be Not Proud. Uh, it is a 14-line poem. As I told you, a sonnet is a poem of 14 lines or sonnet, and it is written by English poet John Donne. John Donne was born in 1572 and died in 1631, and he was the one of leading figures in the metaphysical poets group of 17th century English literature. In our next poem, Go and Catch a Falling Star, we will talk about a little about the metaphysical poets and features of their poetry. Written between February and August 1609, so this poem was written in 1609 and it was first published posthumously. Posthumously means after the death of the poet. So Jordan died in 1631, as I told you, and this poem was published in 1633. So you have to remember that it is sonnet number 10 and the title is Death Be Not Proud, and it is one of the sonnets from Holy Sonnets. This is a brief diagram by which you can remind this poem. Like, it was written between Feb and August 1609, but you have to remember only that this sonnet was written in 1609 and it was first published in 1633. You have to remember the collection in which this sonnet was published. So this sonnet was published in the collection of poems entitled Songs and Sonnets, and country is obviously Kingdom of England, and the series, this was published in Holy Sonnet series, and its subject matter, its theme is Christianity, mortality, resurrection, and eternal life. Christianity means it describes death in Christian religion. Mortality, it describes that everything is subject to decay. Every one of us have to die. Human beings are mortal. So mortality, nashvarta. Resurrection, but you can live after death also. Live after death means physically a person can die, but his values, ideas, thoughts remains alive. Like Jordan has died, but still we are reading his poetry, so it's a resurrection of the poet through this poetry, and thus he had achieved an eternal life. He is alive even after his death if we are remembering him, if we are reading him. And its genre is religious poetry. Holy Sonnets, as the title as the series suggests, holy means pavitra, and the thing which is holy, it is counted in religious. It is religious poetry and it's devotional poetry. Every religious poetry is known as devotional poetry, and its form is sonnet. As I told you, a sonnet is a poem of 14 lines, and its rhyme scheme is ABBA, ABBA, CDD, CEE. Students, as I told you that there are two types of sonnets: Shakespearean sonnet, that is also known as English sonnet. Only William Shakespeare has written in that type of pattern, like three quatrains and one couplet, and other English poets have followed the classical pattern of sonnet writing, in which the sonnet is divided into two parts. First 8 lines are known as octave part, and the rhyme scheme is ABBA, ABBA, and last 6 lines are known as sestet part. The rhyme scheme differs. Either it can be CDC, either it can be CDD, CEE. So the lines are 14. So this is a small diagram by which you can remember all the techniques and information about this poem. First of all, you have to remember that it was written in songs and sonnets. Second, you have to remember the rhyme scheme. Third, you have to remember its theme. Fourth, you have to remember its series, that it was written in holy sonnets. And fifth, you have to remember its time of composing time 1609 and publication time 1633. It is included as one of the 19 sonnets that comprise Donne's holy sonnets or divine meditations, among his best known works. So divine meditations or holy sonnets uh, is his best known works, among which this sonnet is included. Most editions number the poem as the 10th in the sonnet sequence. There are 19 sonnets, 19 sonnet हैं जिसमें 10वें नंबर की sonnet ये है, which follows the order of poems in the Westmoreland manuscript, the most complete arrangement of the cycle discovered in the late 19th century. However, two editions published shortly after Donne's death include the sonnets in a different order, where this poem appears as 11th in the Songs and Sonnets published 1633 and 6th in Divine Medicines published. तो इस तरह से आप याद रख सकते हैं कि सॉन्ग्स और सोनेट्स में जब ये पब्लिश हुई तो ये 10वें नंबर पे पब्लिश हुई, और डिवाइन मेडिटेशन में जब ये पब्लिश हुई 6 नंबर पे पब्लिश हुई. तो you have to remember that it was first published in Songs and Sonnets. Death We Not Proud presents an argument against the power of death. This is the central idea of this poem. And in this poem, the poet addresses death as a person. So he personifies death here. Let me tell you that personification, manvikaran, figure of speech occurs when some known alive thing is treated as alive being. So death is an abstract idea, but here the poet is addressing death like a person. So here he has personified death. Addressing death as a person, the speaker warns death against his pride in his power. Such power is merely an illusion, and at the end, death thinks it brings to men and women is in fact a rest from. Such power is merely an illusion, and at the end, death thinks it brings to men and women is in fact a rest from world weariness from its alleged victims. Death is not death, it's just a rest. The man who dies, he is in eternal peace after death. The poet criticizes death as a slave to other forces. He says that death is a slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men. Death is not in control, for a variety of other powers exercise their volition in taking lives, even in the rest it brings. Death is inferior to drugs. Finally, the speaker predicts the end of death itself, stating, "Death, thou shalt die." So, in this book, generally all of us is afraid of death, but John Donne rebukes death. He challenges death that you cannot harm me. So, let us start our poem. Death, be not proud. Though some have called thee mighty and cheerful, he says that, O death, you should not proud on yourself. मृत्यु, तुम्हें खुद पे घमंड नहीं करना चाहिए. Though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, though there are people who are afraid of you, who have called you mighty and dreadful. Mighty means powerful. Some people has called you powerful and some people has called you dreadful means terrible. कुछ ने तुम्हें शक्तिशाली कहा है और कुछ ने तुम्हें भयानक कहा है. For thou art not so, but the poet thinks that death is not like that. He says that, he denies the fact that, he says that death is not powerful, neither Dreadful means neither terrible. So we should not afraid of death. For those whom thou thinkst thou dost overthrow, die not. For those whom you think that I have given death to that person, but they die not. This is your illusion, poor death. बेचारी मृत्यु, ये तुम्हारा भ्रम है. तुम सोचती हो कि मैंने उसको मार दिया, उसको मार दिया. वो सब कोई भी नहीं मरते, ये तुम्हारा भ्रम है. नोर येट कैनस दाउ किल मी, और उनको भी तुम नहीं मार सकी और तुम मुझे भी नहीं मार सकती. सो द पोइट इज चैलेंजिंग, ओपन चैलेंज. इट्स एन ओपन चैलेंज टू डेथ. डेथ, you can't kill me. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure, then from thee much more must flow. So he says that that death is like rest and it's like sleep. So in this poem, we have he calls death mighty and dreadful, and he says that you are not so, and he says that uh, you are like a rest and like a sleep. These are your pictures. When we sleep and when we take rest, we shut our eyes and we lay on the bed. Similarly, when some person dies, his eyes closes and he lays. So it's like he's having rest or he's sleeping. And the pictures of death, whenever you have you have seen a dead person, you might have seen that he is lying on the floor, he or she is lying on the floor. So these are the pictures of death. But in death, why do we take rest, why do we sleep? To get some relaxation. So by death there can be much pleasure because you don't have to rise again. Then from thee much more must flow. So thee means you, from you much more pleasure can be drawn. And soonest our best men with thee do go. And soonest, very fast, our best men, the best persons in this world, with thee go, with you they go. He says that, जैसा कि हम कहते हैं कि अच्छे लोग जल्दी मर जाते हैं, अच्छे लोगों की मौत जल्दी हो जाती है. Here Jordan is also saying that with you best persons go earlier. Rest of their bones, and their bones lie in the grave. कब्र में उनकी हड्डियां दफना दी जाती हैं. एंड सोल्स डिलीवरी, प्राण पखेरु उड़ जाते हैं. सोल मीन्स उनकी आत्मा. एंड सोल्स डिलीवरी, प्राण पखेरु उनके उड़ जाते हैं, उनकी आत्मा निकल जाती है. बट हियर जोंडन इज अगेन trying to underestimate death. He is saying that thou art slave to faith. He says that death is a slave to fate. Death is a slave to fate. He says that you are a slave to fate. कि तुम सीधे किसी की जान ले ही नहीं सकती. तुम तो जो हो स्लेव हो, दास हो भाग्य की, चांस संयोग की, किंग्स राजाओं की, एंड डेस्परेट मैन परेशान आदमियों की. वाई ही इज सेइंग सो? दैट सम पर्सन डाई ऑफ फेट. उनकी किस्मत में जैसे मौत लिखी होती है वैसे वो मरते हैं. सम पर्सन्स डाई बाय चांस, असामयिक मृत्यु. सम पर्सन्स आर किल्ड बाय किंग्स. एट दैट टाइम किंग्स यूज टू रूल. और राजा किसी को भी फांसी की सज़ा दे देते थे तो उनकी मौत का कारण राजा बनते थे. तो fate can take the life, chance can take the life, kings can take the life. All these are reasons to death. And desperate men, people who murder someone, killers, so they can take that. So death is the slave of all these. Direct death cannot take life of people. उसे कोई जरिया चाहिए होता है. So Jordan is saying that you are the slave of fate, chance, kings, and desperate men. And does with poison. And some people die by drinking poison. Some die in war, fighting in the battleground. एंड सिकनेस ड्वेल, सम डाई ऑफ सिकनेस, कुछ लोग बीमार हो जाते हैं मर जाते हैं, कुछ युद्ध करते मर जाते हैं, कुछ जहर खा के मर जाते हैं. सो डायरेक्ट डेथ का कोई कंट्रोल नहीं होता है मनुष्यों पे, ये सब जरिए होते हैं. एंड पोपी और चार्म्स कैन मेक अस स्लीप एज वेल एंड बेटर देन द स्ट्रोक. एंड इससे अच्छा तो हमें ओवरडोज भी मार सकता है. अगर आप अफीम का ओवरडोज लेते हो या फिर हिप्नोटाइज हो जाते हो तो आप बड़े अच्छे से मर सकते हो. पोपी मीन्स अफीम, चार्म्स मीन्स एनचेंटर, कैन मेक अस स्लीप वेल एंड बेटर. सो ये जो डेथ होती है अफीम के ओवरडोज से, ये पेनलेस होती है. यू विल नॉट फील एनी पेन, आप सोए के सोए रह जाओगे. वाई स्वेल्स दाउट देन, वाई स्वेल्स फूलना, तो तुम क्यों फूल के कुप्पा होती हो, तुम्हारे हाथ में तो कुछ भी नहीं है. He says that one short sleep past we wake eternally. वो कहते हैं कि मौत मौत नहीं है. वन शॉर्ट स्लीप, ये तो एक छोटी नींद है, जैसे हम दिन में या रात में सो के वापस उठ जाते हैं. हालांकि मौत के बाद हम इस दुनिया में वापस नहीं आते, पर हम कहाँ चले जाते हैं? वी वेक इटर्नली, हम अनंत रूप से अमर हो जाते हैं. वी वेक इटर्नली, वी वेकअप फॉर द लाइफ टाइम. फिर हम जन्म मरण के चक्कर से छुटकारा पा जाते हैं, हमें बार बार नहीं उठना होता है. एंड डेथ शैल बी नो मोर, और फिर वहाँ मौत नहीं होती है, मतलब वहाँ जन्म मरण का चक्कर नहीं होता है जब आप हेवन में चले जाते हो. तो दैट्स वाई ये जॉर्डन कह रहा है लास्ट में डेथ को चैलेंज करके कि डेथ दाउ सेल डाई, कि मौत मैं नहीं मरूंगा, तुम मरोगी. ठीक है, ये जॉर्डन यहाँ पे कहना चाहते हैं कि डेथ दाउ सेल डाई, वहाँ पे तो तुम ही मर जाओगे, मैं तो अमर हो जाऊंगा, फिर तुम मुझे मार ही नहीं पाओगी. इसका मतलब कौन आ रहा? डेथ आ रही. तो डेथ यू विल बी डाई देन. ठीक है, सो लेट अस सी द राइम स्कीम. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, दी so overthrow me. So thee so overthrow me. ABBA, thee so overthrow me. ABBA, pictures B flow go delivery. Again ABBA, man dwell well. CDD, then C eternally die. CEE. So this is the rhyme scheme. Let us see some important questions. What does death we not proud mean? The first words of a sonnet by John Donne. These are the first word of the sonnet. And in this poem, the poet asserts that वो मानते हैं कि death is a feeble enemy and concludes with these lines: one short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death thou shalt die. What is the main theme of Death Note? What is the central theme? The central theme of the poem Death We Not Proud by John Donne is the powerlessness of death. He says that death is powerless. According to Donne, that is but a pathway to eternal life. It is a pathway. It is a way. ये एक रास्ता है अमर होने का. And as such is not something mighty and dreadful as maybe believe it to be. What kind of poem is Death We Not Proud? Death We Not Proud is especially a type of poem called a sonnet. A sonnet has 14 lines and a particular rhyme scheme. The lines of the poem, the rhyme scheme of this poem is ABBA, ABBA, CD, CDD, CEE. How is death personified in Death We Not Proud? In the poem Death We Not Proud, written by John Donne, death is personified. He does this by undermining the idea of death as bound up to the rules of fate, chance, kings, and desperate men. He addresses death as a person. He insists that death is no powerful than any mortal, is suggesting that death is not mysterious, is the word, not slave. Why is the poet not afraid of death? In other words, that is arrogant because it thinks that it is able to completely conquer the people it takes. However, the speaker says that death overthrows its victim only temporarily. The speaker compares death to sleep, which is peaceful, rest, restorative, and nothing to be afraid of. What is the rhyme scheme of his Spenserian sonnet? The rhyme scheme is ABB. The rhyme scheme of this sonnet is ABBA, so that's all. uh, we will be continuing our next poem. Thanks for watching.